Hello! This is the story of one of the most brutal and fierce feuds Australia has ever witnessed. For years, two major crime families were locked in a deadly war, where every act of retaliation was a fiery response to the alleged theft of massive drug shipments. Bloody attacks occurred in broad daylight, leaving countless casualties. The tension escalated to the point where even the innocent mothers of those involved were no longer safe from the relentless waves of violence. While the streets of Sydney were engulfed in fear and chaos, these two families continued their massive-scale drug smuggling operations. But what was most terrifying was that all this chaos was being orchestrated from behind bars, where the leaders of both clans were locked up in a maximum security prison. So, how were they able to control everything, order murders, and keep their criminal empires running from inside prison? This is the story of the Hamy family versus the Alameddine family, a war so brutal that the entire city of Sydney trembled before its savagery. To understand the root of this bloody rivalry, we need to go back to the Hamy family, also known as Brothers for Life. The head of this family is Bassem Hamy, a notorious figure and the son of two Lebanese immigrants, Khaled and Lola Hamy. They fled their homeland, which was engulfed in civil war during the 1970s, to Australia, hoping for a better life. But contrary to his parents' dreams, Bassem quickly fell into a life of crime. In 1998, at the age of just 19, Bassem shot and killed 18-year-old Chris Tomazis after a dispute in a Sydney nightclub, resulting in Bassem being sentenced to 21 years in prison. One might think that this would be the end of his criminal life, but no, Bassem's story was just beginning. From deep within the cold walls of Goulburn Supermax prison, Bassem founded the Brothers for Life gang in 2007 after converting to radical Islam. He wasn't just a criminal, he was a figure who attracted followers with a cult-like devotion. His converts grew in such numbers that prison officials had to admit that the situation had become too dangerous, forcing them to transfer Bassem to Lithgow prison. There, with just a smuggled mobile phone in his cell, Bassem was able to run an entire criminal empire outside without anyone noticing. By 2008, however, his phone was discovered. The investigation into this phone revealed a shocking secret. Bassem had made over 19,000 calls in just over a month, an average of 460 calls per day. That revelation marked the beginning of a series of bloody events, not only within the prison, but spreading across the streets of Sydney. A wide-reaching investigation uncovered a disturbing truth. Through thousands of calls made from inside prison, Bassem Hamy was not only relaying orders to his subordinates, but also running a vast criminal empire. He was smuggling large amounts of drugs worth $250,000 each week, ordering kidnappings and orchestrating drive-by shootings. One of Bassem's closest associates was his cousin Mohammed Hamy, whom Bassem had appointed as the president of the Bankstown chapter of Brothers for Life, and who was even considered a co-founder of the organization. Despite holding the title of president, Mohammed was entirely under Bassem's command, unable to act without the permission of the man behind bars. Bassem, even while imprisoned, held absolute power, though his control was not to last forever. As the Brothers for Life gang grew stronger, Bassem began to lose control. Anyone who could afford $70 to buy a gang t-shirt was considered a member, causing the number of members to skyrocket. The newcomers had no idea who Bassem was and had no reason to be loyal to him. Money and power caused the gang to drift further from its founder's grip. While the Bankstown chapter flourished, the Blacktown chapter, led by Bassem Hijazi and his right-hand man Yehye Ahmoud, also rose to prominence. This chapter attracted people of Afghan descent, putting them at odds with the Bankstown chapter, whose members were predominantly Lebanese. Internal conflicts were inevitable. Everything came to a head in October 2012, when a surprise attack occurred. Bassem and Yehye were lured into a trap and attacked while in their car. Cold, ruthless bullets tore through the air, killing Yehye instantly. The mastermind behind the attack was none other than Mohammed Hamy, the president of the Bankstown chapter. This strike pushed the feud between the two chapters to a new and more intense level. After the attack, Basim panicked and fled to Lebanon, where he disappeared without a trace. His departure did not end the violence, as the cycle of revenge attacks continued relentlessly. Another notable event took place on the night of October 29, 2013 in Revesby Heights. Mohammed Hamzi, along with Mahmoud Hamzi and a man named Omar Ajaj, were sitting in a garage, unaware that death was lurking nearby. A mysterious white Nissan Tida parked not far away, and two men quietly approached them. Gunshots suddenly erupted. The two attackers quickly fled in their car, vanishing into the night. The main target of the attack was Mohammed Hamzi, but he narrowly escaped with his life. Mahmoud died on the spot, while Omar was severely injured. All evidence pointed to the Blacktown chapter, and 3 individuals, including a woman named Amanda Crow, were quickly arrested. Despite apprehending the culprits, but the cycle of bloodshed showed no signs of stopping. New South Wales Police Commissioner Mick Willing expressed concern that if the revenge attacks didn't cease, they would continue to terrorize the community. He called for public cooperation, but with Brothers for Life having grown into an uncontrollable monster, ending the violence seemed almost impossible. On December 11, 2014, a shocking event occurred. Bassem Hamzi's mother, Lola Hamzi, became the victim of a brutal shooting. As she stood behind the front door of her house, an attacker suddenly opened fire, striking her in the abdomen. Although severely injured, Lola miraculously survived, leaving the entire family shaken. Notably, Lola Hamzi wasn't the first victim of this type of attack. On March 9, 2013, Bilal Hamzi's mother, Maha, who was also Bassem's aunt, had suffered a similar attack. Maha was shot 8 times in the leg while opening the door, but also miraculously survived. The initial target had been Bilal, who had threatened to extort $5,000 from someone's mother. However, when Maha opened the door instead of her son, she became the target of the attack. By the end of 2014, the storm of violence seemed to reach its conclusion when a police crackdown succeeded in arresting many key members of the Brothers for Life gang. Most of the main players were either eliminated or imprisoned. Police Commissioner Mick Willing optimistically remarked, "I hope this is the final nail in the coffin." Over 300 charges were filed against 21 members, leading to long prison sentences. Bassem, still incarcerated, was forced to witness the collapse of the gang he had built. However, the peace lasted only 2 years before everything turned worse than ever. Alongside the Hamzi family, there was another notorious crime family operating in Sydney, the Alameddine family. Talal Alameddine, a leader of this family, was also imprisoned, serving a 17-year sentence for his involvement in the fatal attack on police accountant Curtis Shuke Cheng in 2015 at the New South Wales Police Headquarters in Parramatta. This attack shocked the entire nation and was considered an act of terrorism. The Hamzi and Alameddine families became irreconcilable enemies on the streets of Sydney. Although there are various stories about the origins of the feud, ranging from drug theft to territorial disputes, this conflict became one of the most brutal wars Australia had ever witnessed. In April 2016, the war saw its first attack between the two sides when Safwan Sharbaji, an associate of the Alameddine family, was killed. Just 20 days later, Wali Ahmad, an ally of the Hamzi family, was also murdered. As another blow, New South Wales Police Commissioner Mick Willing had to face the painful truth that his earlier remark, "I hope this is the final nail in the coffin," was tragically wrong. Despite the temporary calm, Bassem Hamzi reappeared in national news in October 2016, when prison staff discovered yet another phone connected to him. The 7 cm long phone was hidden inside a book in the library of Goulburn Supermax Prison, where Bassem was being held after being transferred from Lithgow Prison. Bassem, labeled an extremely dangerous prisoner due to his extremist religious beliefs and the fanaticism of his followers, had caused major embarrassment for the prison staff. New South Wales Commissioner of Corrective Services, Peter Severin, sternly declared, "This is completely unacceptable, and we will thoroughly investigate this matter using our top-tier security and intelligence unit. Despite relentless investigation efforts, less than 2 weeks later, another shock occurred. Bassem Hamzy, the extremely dangerous prisoner, was caught with yet another phone. During a raid on his cell, prison staff found the phone and Bassem tried to flush it down the toilet. However, the guards had anticipated this move and had cut off the water supply in advance, preventing him from destroying the evidence. Bassam was immediately detained before he could react. The investigation into the phone revealed that Bassem remained the undisputed leader of the Brothers for Life gang. Meanwhile, at Goulburn Supermax, where Bassem was being held, Talal Alameddine, the leader of the Alameddine family, was also incarcerated. With the increasing tension between the two families on the streets of Sydney, a clash between these two leaders inside prison was inevitable. In October 2018, a brawl erupted between Bassam and Talal, the entire incident captured on surveillance cameras. Talal attacked Bassam during a heated argument over power within the prison. The footage showed Talal grabbing Bassam and beating him repeatedly, while Bassam had no chance to retaliate. The fight was eventually broken up when several guards rushed in to intervene. New South Wales police feared that the feud would explode outside the prison, and their concerns were not unwarranted. On October 14, 2020, Shaylin Zreika, an associate of the Alameddine family, was attacked and beaten by a member of the Hamzy family. After 2 years of quiet, the feud between the two families flared up again. 3 days later, Ibrahim Hamzy's house was riddled with bullets, and in retaliation, on October 18th, Rafat Alameddine's house became the target of a shooting. Every action by one side immediately prompted a reaction from the other, turning the feud into a continuous cycle of retaliatory attacks. Less than a day after the attack on Rafat's house, the Alameddine family began plotting a major strike against the Hamzy family. At 7:30 a.m. on October 19, 2020, Majid Hamzy left his house for a walk, unaware that two attackers had parked near his home 2 hours earlier. As Majid walked down the street, two armed men emerged from their car and began chasing him. When they got close, they opened fire on Majid. Although injured, Majid attempted to flee, but after running about 100 meters, he collapsed. Paramedics tried their best to save him, but Majid ultimately did not survive. The death of Majid Hamzy, Bassem's younger brother, sent shockwaves throughout the community. When asked about the incident, Bassem appeared saddened, but responded calmly saying, "I accept that it is God's will." However, Bankstown Police Commander Darren Sly was deeply worried about the consequences of the shooting. His concerns were justified, as after Majid's death, the conflict between the two families spiraled into unprecedented chaos. Every week saw new fights, shootings, and property destruction, with even innocent victims caught in the crossfire. On January 30th, 2021, Mustafa, an innocent man unconnected to any crime, was mistakenly shot and killed, believed to have been a member of the Hamzy family. The conflict was no longer confined to specific areas. It could erupt anywhere, even at airports. On February 6, 2021, at Ballina Byron Gateway Airport, two members of the Alameddine family were waiting for their luggage when a Hamzy family associate spotted them. A brawl quickly broke out, with punches flying in all directions. Passengers hurried to distance themselves, with one woman seen pulling her daughter away from the danger zone. Although many tried to intervene, but the fight didn't stop until a security officer arrived and finally managed to break it up. The situation was becoming increasingly dire, and the airport brawl only heightened the tension and violence. The next victim in this conflict was Bilal Hamzy. Bilal Hamzy had lived in constant fear for months, fully aware that there was a massive bounty on his head. The New South Wales police had repeatedly warned him, advising him to stay out of the public eye and find a safe place to hide. However, rumors in the underworld suggested that the Alameddine family was willing to pay up to $750,000, possibly even as much as $1 million to have him killed. Despite this, Bilal dismissed the warnings. Instead of hiding somewhere safe, he chose to live in the bustling heart of Sydney, a crowded area filled with skyscrapers, numerous businesses, and a heavy police presence, with surveillance cameras everywhere. He felt safe, believing that the large crowds and tight security would deter anyone from attacking him in such a public place, but he was completely wrong. On June 17, 2021, after Bilal had just left a restaurant, he stepped onto the street unaware of what awaited him. As he walked past a parked Audi, someone in the passenger seat called out to him. The moment Bilal turned his head, the person immediately shot him 4 times. He fell to the ground and tried to fight back, but the Audi turned around and more shots were fired to ensure Bilal had no chance of survival. This was a clear demonstration of the ruthlessness and determination of his enemies. On a Thursday evening in one of the busiest areas of Sydney, Bilal was gunned down. This event proved that his belief in his safety was a fatal mistake. However, the shock didn't end there. A few months later, on October 20th, 2021, the Hamy family suffered another devastating blow. Salim Hamy and his father, Tawfiq, had just left their home to get into their truck, unaware that death was lurking nearby. Suddenly, an armed assailant emerged from a car and rushed toward their vehicle. The attacker fired multiple shots at the truck, stumbling during the attack, but quickly recovering and continuing. At close range, the shooter fired several bullets, hitting both Salim and Tawfiq. Salim was under investigation for his involvement in the shooting of an Alameddine family member named Shadi Kanj, while Tawfiq was an innocent man who only wanted to help his son get back on the right path. The brutality knew no bounds, and this conflict claimed the lives of even the innocent. The Alameddine family didn't stop there, continuing to order more attacks with the intent to completely eliminate the Hamy family. The ongoing assaults and counterattacks unfolded rapidly, with the Alameddines gaining the upper hand. A bloody attack on January 6, 2022, claimed the life of Ghassan Amoun, Bassam's brother. A gray Mini Cooper approached Ghassan's BMW, and 2 attackers stepped out firing multiple rounds at him. Although he was treated at the scene, Ghassan did not survive. The Mini Cooper was later found burned nearby, destroying most of the evidence. To date, more than 10 lives have been lost in the unrelenting war between the 2 families. The attacks and retaliations continue, with numerous members of both families being killed or imprisoned with long sentences. Bassam Hamy, the one who ignited all of these tragedies, remains incarcerated at the high-security Goulburn prison. His sentence has been extended for continuing to orchestrate gang activities from behind bars. Bassam even dragged his lawyer, Martin Churchill, into his drug operations, resulting in Martin's imprisonment as well. While the Alameddine family may have the upper hand, but the painful question remains: at what cost? What are your thoughts on this story? Leave your comments below for everyone to read. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support me. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.